Trump allies are calling for the federal government to punish Deloitte after one of its employees allegedly shared private messages with JD Vance. This is the latest instance of major American companies being targeted by former President Donald Trump and his inner circle. The backlash against Deloitte began immediately after the Washington Post published a report revealing that JD Vance, in a private 2020 message, criticized Trump for failing to deliver on his economic agenda. Although the Post did not disclose who Vance was speaking with, these private messages were leaked to the media. Trump's eldest son, Donald Trump Jr., responded swiftly on social media. He identified the Deloitte employee, posting their photo and suggesting that Deloitte should face consequences, particularly since the firm receives billions in government contracts. He even questioned whether the GOP should continue funding Deloitte through taxpayer money. Trump Jr. later said that he was speaking as a private citizen. According to federal data, Deloitte received approximately $3 billion from the U.S. government in fiscal year 2024, including large amounts from the Department of Defense and the IRS. Days later, Trump Jr. questioned whether Deloitte had responded to the accusations of conspiring with the Washington Post to support Kamala Harris. His statements were amplified by GOP Senator Eric Schmidt, who demanded that Deloitte address this so-called scandal. Although neither Donald Trump nor JD Vance have directly threatened Deloitte, these attacks follow a familiar pattern where Trump and his allies target U.S. businesses. Experts warn that if Trump returns to the White House, there's a real possibility he could use federal power to retaliate against companies he deems as enemies. Jeffrey Sonnenfeld, president of the Yale Chief Executive Leadership Institute, calls these actions outrageous and argues that they show how inappropriate Trump is as a candidate. More than any modern president, Trump has repeatedly singled out individual U.S. businesses. Recently, Trump threatened to impose massive tariffs on John Deere and suggested that he would use the Justice Department to go after Google. In the past, he's called for boycotts of Apple, accused Amazon of scamming the U.S. Postal Service, and criticized companies like General Motors and Facebook. Sonnenfeld believes Trump's behavior is a dangerous interference in the private sector, undermining the rule of law. Richard Painter, a former ethics lawyer for President George W. Bush, called the attacks on Deloitte shameful. He suggested that Trump Jr. is acting as a stand-in for his father's personal vendettas. Painter warned that trying to revoke Deloitte's government contracts over political disagreements would be an abuse of federal contracting laws, which are based on value to taxpayers, not political preferences. Even if Deloitte supported Trump's political opponents, that shouldn't affect their eligibility for government contracts. In response, Trump Jr. stated that the Deloitte employee had a right to leak the messages, and as a private citizen, he had the right to express his opinion about where his tax dollars are spent. He went on to criticize both the employee and the journalist who reported the story, suggesting they should have expected public backlash. According to the Washington Post, the Deloitte employee was notified that their identity could be revealed. Deloitte responded by clarifying that the messages were shared by the employee independently and without the company's knowledge. A spokesperson for Deloitte emphasized that the firm remains nonpartisan and committed to serving clients across different political administrations. This incident stands out because, unlike other companies that Trump has targeted for outsourcing or other corporate decisions, Deloitte's situation centers on the actions of a single employee. Sonnenfeld pointed out that Deloitte has over 150,000 employees in the U.S. and that one person's actions don't represent the entire company. Norman Eisen, a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution, warned that Trump's camp has openly signaled their intent to use government power against those they see as enemies. He urged businesses to take the threat of retaliation seriously.